Appreciate that, Jess. Both for the kind words and then also the invitation to participate in today's meeting. Yeah, my name's Ryan Foote. I'm the district ranger here on the Chattooga River. I've been here for a little over 3 years. And prior to my time in line officer or district ranger roles, I was a fish biologist in California, working with salmon and steelhead and frogs and macroinvertebrates. And so watershed management, watershed restoration is where I really cut my teeth within the U.S. Forest Service. And so Jess is right that this type of work is a passion of mine, both in the workplace and outside the workplace. And I've got a lot of respect for Georgia ForestWatch and this initiative. I think that, with what could potentially come out of this effort, I think it'd be extremely helpful to the agency, and I'll go into that here in a little bit. And yeah, I'm just really excited about this effort. I think it's going to be extremely valuable to us. Just going back a little bit, Andrew, you were talking a little bit about the road miles on the Chattahoochee-Oconee. I think the number I have is 1,529 miles. So a little over 1,200. Total acres of the forest is roughly about 866,000 acres. And often a unit that we use in watershed management and roads is road density. So miles of road per square mile of land. And so when I did a quick calculations on road densities on the forest, we have 1.1 miles of road per square mile. So that's just a common way that you can look at watershed densities by landscape or watershed. And overall, 1.1 miles per square mile is really low for Forest Service. But not every landscape is built like the Southern Nantahala. This is an extremely steep landscape, especially up in the higher elevations, highly erodible soils. And the majority of our roads, at least there's always one section, or majority of them are, easiest place to build a road is right adjacent to the stream. So when these were put in decades and decades ago, if not, 100 years ago, when they were building those roads, they weren't necessarily concerned about the erosion. They were trying to get from point A to point B. And so what we find is a lot of these roads, old railroad beds, are directly adjacent to streams, and the engineering of the roads, as well as the drainage features that were placed in there, even in the 70s and 80s, the culverts, stream culverts, as well as ditch relief culverts, were undersized. And so we're playing catch up at this point on going through these road systems, upgrading the culverts, reconstructing the road prisms to better align it with, to one, make these roads more sustainable, as well as user-friendly, and reduce those impacts to aquatic habitat. So, Andrew did state that roads are, and he's accurate on that, roads are the #1 contributor of sediment to our aquatic habitats and forested watersheds. If you're trying to make improvements to watershed or stream habitat, the best investment with limited funds is to address those roads. And where the rubber's going to hit the road and the value of this data you guys are collecting. And I've spoken with Jess about it. We met with Jeffrey Wright from TU, the Southeast project coordinator, who I think, Jess, you're working with on this, or at least have spoken with, I believe.
Yeah, we've been coordinating with Jeff quite a bit.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Jeff. I think how he's looking at citizen science and these data collection efforts is exactly the direction that we need to be going, and working with groups like TU and yourselves. But the beauty of this protocol is it's fairly easy to collect. as long as you can get there. You don't need to have a degree or be a rocket scientist to collect this data. It's fairly simple, fairly rudimentary in a lot of ways, but the data collected can be, invaluable to the agency in identifying where our problems are, as well as where, with our limited funds, we can invest those funds to reduce sediment. Because, I'll admit that every road I go onto, I get my ulcer flares up a little bit. And there's a lot of work to do out there. I'll admit that. Ed Hunter will admit that. But we may not have the funding we have an 8-mile section of road. To reconstruct 8 miles, you're looking $150,000, $200,000 potentially, maybe more. But we may be able to identify a section of road, a couple miles, a mile, one culvert, where you can reduce sediment on a sub-watershed scale by 50%, 80%, just by really focusing down on fixing, those high priority issues. And this data that you all are going to collect, this is data that we don't have. That's the beauty of this, is through this shared stewardship concept. This data can really drive where the agency goes. And I think it's just a beautiful thing that we get to work with you all in collecting this data, analyzing this data, and then developing priorities. Jess, you mentioned foothills. This type of data, as we go through foothills, if we get to that point where we're developing projects, I anticipate, at least for the Chattooga River, that this data is going to be highly usable and implementable for the foothills landscape. So I look forward to that. I do want to, I believe one of the areas you guys are going to look at is Darnell Creek. I think that's kind of one of your priorities, right?
Yep.
I had the opportunity yesterday to have Ed Hunter on the district with me, and I took him out in one of our vehicles and toured around. We went and looked at Darnell Creek, spent a couple hours up there. He had not been up Darnell Creek for years, but he knew about it. And that road is in bad shape. That's a maintenance level 2 road. We have different maintenance levels for the U.S. Forest Service, from maintenance level 1 all the way to maintenance level 5. So a maintenance level 5 road would be a paved road, almost like a highway. Tallulah River Road is a maintenance level 3 road, I believe. And Darnell Creek is maintenance level 2 road. A maintenance level 2 road is high clearance vehicle. You don't necessarily need 4-wheel drive, but you also probably aren't going to get up it in a Porsche. You won't get up a maintenance level 2 in a Porsche. I don't know that personally because I've never driven one, but right now that road is sections of it are in a maintenance level 1 where you are required to have a 4-wheel drive vehicle. And the erosion there is disheartening. And so we know we have to get work done there. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what the data you guys collect on what that turns out looking like. And so I'm just really looking forward to this. So I appreciate you letting me participate today. And I hope I can help. I mean, I spent years collecting this type of data for the Forest Service, very similar, not the same protocol, but very similar. And so I've put a lot of miles on my feet looking at roads. So